evening and welcome to Atlantic Television Press Roundtable here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. I'm so excited because today is a brilliant day. Well, it rained earlier, but it didn't so much. And then a lot of stories, interesting stories are trending. Well, as a journalist, you enjoy so much of beautiful stories that impact on the polity, positively or negatively. Well, Press Roundtable is for press professionals, media professionals who come here every 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday. Today is not going to be different. We are gathering here to give inside perspectives and to actually give balanced opinions on issues that are trending in the last 24 hours. Well, before we continue, I'm sure you are seeing our social media platform there and you're watching us live. Now let's look at some of the headlines that trended. Nigeria signs a memorandum of understanding with UN on terrorism. Nigerian doctors earn lower wages. FG mourns the death of national flag designer Akunwumi. On the international scene, international outrage over coup in Gabon. Manufacturers Association lament poor productivity. These are some of the headlines. Brief, but concise and direct to the point. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we are going to look at some of the details of some of the stories that are trending today. I'm sure you're watching us live on our various social media platforms. This is Press Roundtable. We'll be right back after this short break. My name is Bon Woki. I'll give you my company as soon as we come back. Welcome back. Nigerian government and United Nations have signed 2 memorandums of understanding to strengthen counter-terrorism efforts in the country. Head Strategic Communications Office of the National Security Advisor, Zakari Biyawa, on Thursday said the MOUs will help deepen the fight against terrorism in the country. The National Coordinator of the National Counter-Terrorism Center, Rear Admiral Yem Musa, retired, who represented the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, noted that the 2 memorandums of understandings signaled a momentous milestone in cementing Nigeria's partnership with UNCOT towards enhanced collective counter-terrorism efforts. United Nations Under-Secretary General Office of the Counterterrorism, Mr. Vladimir Voronkov, said the MOUs envisage further cooperation in various areas, including counter-terrorist travel, financing of terrorism, border and maritime security, and delivery of counter-terrorism training in Nigeria. Very interesting story. Well, we're talking about signing MOUs with multilateral organizations and even different nations of the world. We've had with United States when they came to train our soldiers to counter the Boko Haram insurgency. Now we're talking about reinvigorating, reinventing what had transpired in the past between Nigeria and the United Nations Agency on Terrorism.
I've always wondered why this memorandum of understanding has been signed since we started experiencing heavy insecurity in Nigeria. I'm glad it's being crossed the line. That's kudos to the federal government, Nuhu Ribadu and co. But the thing is, what this means simply is that it will increase the participation and some sort of help from the UN.
Okay.
Interpol will be heavily involved now. It's not like they weren't in the past. When you look at insecurity, you're looking at the Hydra-headed issue. Sponsors of insecurity, these are areas we've not properly looked into. Now, the UN and its allies, UN as a body, and UN as an organ that, sues for world peace, will help in demystifying some of the hidden issues we have with sponsors of terrorism. We've heard over and over again security reports detailing that some of the sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria are not Nigerians.
Okay.
I mean, we had the rumor of issue with Turkey and all of that. It tells you that insecurity has become a business all over the world. Nigeria is bearing the heavy brunt because we didn't quell this from the onset. But so I'm very happy that this has crossed the line. I'm hoping and I'm waiting. I can't wait for the results that this memorandum of understanding will yield in the positive in Nigeria.
Right.
Oh, so I'm hoping that we will start witnessing a positive in the signing of this memorandum of understanding with the UN. I'm very happy that it will yield results.
Yes, I think that what is happening is an indication that security is not a domestic issue. I mean, security does not only affect a single country. Now, what is happening from the Sahel, where you have the whole of north of West Africa having, stateless people. Stateless people, this wandering Iswa are stateless people. They don't belong to, they're like the what do you call them? Some of these people you find in the Middle East.
Okay.
The Bedouins and all that. They are stateless, but they live in the mountain, they live in the desert. And the same thing applies to those stateless citizens on the fringe, northern fringe of West Africa. And they are the Iswa, the Islamic insurgents. And then you have Al-Qaeda. Then you have Boko Haram. They are all terrorist groups that are recognized internationally, globally, by United Nations as terrorist groups that must be clamped down upon. So it's not a Nigerian business, it's a global business.
Now you're talking now. Let's not take off the fact that insecurity and terrorism, especially terrorism, is well coordinated now. With ties across the globe, all over the world, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over America, all over Europe, is an organized set of crime. People who, let me give you an instance. If something happens in Afghanistan now, in Syria, you see ISWAP here in Somalia, in Nigeria, mobilizing for the ISWAP or the ISIS.
They're all here.
So it's a coordinated unit. And so we need a force as UN coming together as one body to fight insecurity. It pains me when insecurity is left to the host nation, or where the nation where that suffers most to bear the brunt alone. It's not the way to go. Coming together as a unit, countries where insecurity is very prominent, coming together with the UN body to flush insecurity will be the finest way and the finest solution to this issue that we have here and other African countries.
Well, I thank God that's a picture of the MOU, and is going to strengthen our fight against terror in Nigeria, because terror in Nigeria is terror in Africa. Terror in Nigeria is terror in the world. It is not localized. It's not a Nigerian thing. So it's important that we move beyond that local mentality of saying Nigeria is not able to fight terror.
And it's also essential that we know that terrorism is not going to be wished away.
No, you can't wish it away.
No,
it's a global phenomenon.
Yes, it's something that needs deliberate attention, deliberate technique and tact to fight. You know, gone are the days. I remember when we first had the first suicide bombing in Nigeria.
Exactly.
It shocked me to the bones.
Yeah.
You know, we never saw Nigeria as a country that will witness such violence, such crime.
It was very prominent in Northeast.
You know, yeah. So it was something that we rarely heard in Nigeria. It was news to us. And so let's clean our minds and settle that this issue has come to stay. The earlier we start advancing a global technique and strategy to fight this, the better for us.
It should be something that should be fought in synergy, a global synergy to fight terror, because it's a specialized war. It is not a conventional war. All right, let's look at other stories. Chairman of the Committee of Chief Medical Directors of Federal Tertiary Hospitals, Professor M. Bassi, has said that other African countries are now poaching Nigerian medical doctors and other health professionals. According to him, countries like Sierra Leone and Gambia were offering them up to $3,000 to $4,000, which was about 3 to 4 times their salary in Nigeria. Bassi, who is the CMD of the University of Uyo Teaching Hospital, said the health sector is currently undergoing a major crisis in terms of manpower, as health professionals are living in droves. He also said doctors often went on strike because the government often failed to meet unrealizable promises. Bassi said this when he appeared before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee to probe employment racketeering in federal government agencies, alongside heads of other health institutions in the country. That's a big story. It's not news.
No, it's not.
The reason why we have Nigerian doctors leaving the country in droves is because they are offered better opportunities. And that is the real essence of what you call greener pasture.
Yeah, of course. And we don't see the end in sight, in as much as our health sector is joked with by the federal people who run the nation. I had a discussion with somebody this afternoon, and I said, we'll keep mounting down this road if we do not change our ways. I mean, institutions need to work. We need to place priorities where necessary. We don't major in minor and expect us to move forward.
Yeah.
A while ago, we were listening, and we thought the joke happened in the National Assembly, where they were told that allowances for their weekend to. I mean, no matter how legitimate that allowance is, that joke on national television was something that really dampened the spirit of Nigerians. You have a health sector. Have you gone to any tertiary health institution? Let's take UPTH for an example. You see the decline, the drive of some doctors are very low. I mean, when manpower is lessened, you have one doctor to over 3,000 patients at the University Teaching Hospital. It's something that worries every man. So if a doctor who earns below 200, 300,000 naira sees a salary of 600,000, no matter how low economically that country is, the doctor will run to those countries. And we're not doing ourselves any better. There's no like-for-like replacement for those doctors who are leaving. And remember, the doctors who are leaving are experienced medical practitioners.
Trained here.
So if we keep going like this, it's going to tell badly on us as a nation. I'm already feeling so sad about this incident. Let's not make it worse. Let's see how we can start upgrading our mentality in terms of knowing what is serious and what is not. The health of a nation is all we need. A sick man cannot function optimally if you're sick. So the health sector is what should be priority by this government. And if we are set to be a serious nation and if we want to move forward.
Yes, if you look at the governance and economic indices of what makes a nation a developed nation. For example, now, we're not in the BRICS, emerging nations of the world. We're not there. We're Brazil.
No, Russia, we're not India and all that.
We're not there because our economic indices don't suit. And part of those indices include Human Development Index, HDI. And HDI has to do with, life expectancy, has to do with infant mortality, infant morbidity, maternal morbidity, and maternal mortality. All this is the health well-being of the country, the ratio of patient to doctor and all that. So as long as we keep falling below these expectations, we will continue to remain where we are, and we continue to be treated as an underdeveloped nation rather than an emerging nation or a developing nation where we ought to be. I think that those who govern this country don't seem to know the implications of what they are doing. Now, if you look at Nigerian doctors in UK, they're doing very well.
Extremely well.
And every day our doctors are writing the exams. It's not as if they just move, like going to Paya. No. They write exams.
And they pass.
And they pass. If you go to UPTH, almost virtually every doctor writes the exam. As they pass, they move in droves. And this is what happens in a country that does not even have enough. And it got so ridiculous that some people even wanted to bring in some bills, put some laws in place to kind of stop them from moving. Rather than stopping them from, you want to stop those things that have encouraged them to move out of the country. They call it like Syria alone. Imagine Syria alone.
There was a bill that rumored then.
Yes, it died at inception.
Yes, that government officials, elected officials, should not have the opportunity to
medical tourism.
Yes. You know, I wonder why that was stalled. I wonder why that didn't see the light of day. It would have corrected a lot of the anomalies here in Nigeria. The decay is too much. And it also will depend on the mentality of the person in government, all right? Do we still want to fight corruption? Because it all boils down to corruption.
Yeah.
It's not that monies were not allocated to the health sector. Maybe they were misappropriated, or maybe they were not enough to cater to the needs, the health needs of Nigeria. So we need a government that will be intentional.
Exactly. Wanting
to revive the health sector. If not, doctors will keep leaving, and it will get worse to a point where it will be a death trap. Our hospitals will turn to museums and all of that. Let's not pray that happens. If it happens, it's going to be bad for us.
I think that the ultimate, that will last take for this story, the ultimate is to declare an emergency in the health sector. Let's look at the next story. It has a lot to do with patriotism. Federal government of Nigeria is mourning the death of the designer of the Nigerian national flag, Taiwo Akuwumi, who died at the age of 84 at his family home in Ibadan in cause of brief illness. A statement issued by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Mohammed Idris, Wednesday said late Pa Akuwumi was a national icon. The statement read, "I am particularly saddened over the news of the demise of Pa Taiwo Akuwumi, a national icon whose contribution to national unity will remain indelible," unquote. And he also said, unquote, "I am confident that Pa Akuwumi will continue to live in the minds of Nigerians for generations to come. The national flag, one of our revered national symbols, is an asset for which Pa Akuwumi has etched his name in the annals of Nigeria."
Is an inevitable end to all mortals, but those who lived for others never really die, as they rest in our heart and are immortalized in history. Pa Michael Taiwo Akinkunmi, the man who designed Nigerian's flag, has passed on at 87. Late Pa Akinkunmi, a native of Owu in Abeokuta, Ogun State, was born on 10th May 1936 in Ibadan, Oyo State. Pa Akinkunmi had his primary education at the Baptist Day Secondary School and his secondary education at Ibadan Grammar School, Molete, both in Ibadan, Oyo State. Pa Akinkunmi started working shortly after graduation from secondary school at the defunct Western Region Secretariat, Ibadan, shortly before he got admitted into the Norwood Technical College, London, where he studied engineering. While studying abroad in 1958, Pa Akinkunmi saw an advertisement in a national...
But yes, moving forward, these are the kind of stories we want to hear. You know, if you reward excellence, if you reward patriotism, more people will be drawn to do good in the country. I mean, I'm expecting, I don't know anywhere in Nigeria if it has a monument, a statue erected. You know, he should be recorded in the annals of history in Nigeria, where, you know, from what I hear, we're no longer heavy on history in our secondary and primary schools. Yes. So these are kind of stories we need to teach our children. And it will help in molding the zeal to do more for the country instead of waiting for what the country would do for them.
Well, I think that Pakiwumi has etched his name in the annals of Nigerian history. And, well, he saw that our national anthem was written by a foreigner. Nigeria, we held our own dear native country, you know, and all that. That was why it was even removed. And we came to this, what, is it juju music? Afrobeat. Arise, O compatriot. That's Afrobeat beat now. You know, it was very classical. And so I think that it is that feeling of patriotism, that feeling of nationalism, nationalist spirit that made Nigerians change that anthem.
You know, one of the things that really saddens me is it was until recently that he was giving a national award by the Goodluck Jonathan administration. So that it speaks a lot about how we do not value patriotism. It's something that we really need to work on as a nation, because oftentimes you hear that people who, you know, show signs of patriotism, who do not value patriotism, youths going into get-rich-quick schemes just to make money. That's because that patriotic trait is not instilled in them. That value is not instilled in them. If we keep on, if we are on disregarding the efforts of the heroes past, and I tell you, it will tell badly on us as a people and as a nation.
Yeah, I think that Nigerians, you know, if you can't die for something, then you die for nothing. Nigerians must learn to be patriotic. Nigerians must learn to do things that add value to their nation. But there are just duties and obligation. Duties, rights, and obligation.
Okay.
You talk about it. And we are taught in civics, ordinary level, O-level civics. But all this go with some level of, you know, what will I say? A nation gifting something to the people. A nation that has created an environment that people can sit back and be proud of. When you leave this country and you go out of Nigeria, you'll be proud to say, I'm a Nigerian. I was watching a lot. We seem to be very, very patriotic and tied to our ethnic nations. That appears to be the issue. We seem to be tied to, because Nigeria is a country of many ethnic nationalities. Nobody has that kind of tie or affection to nationhood, but individual nations. I was watching a program, Ikwere community in London, doing their wrestling festival and all that. You know, you can hardly see a Nigerian festival in London. But you see Yoruba, you see different people. I was watching Ikwere New Yam Festival. In my community, we call it Hozu. Because this Hozu period, they were doing Hozu in Houston. Interesting. Because they were celebrating their ethnic value. They have that attachment to their ethnic nationality. Nothing else is important. If we begin to have a Nigeria where people begin to have that kind of attachment to the nation, just as we do in football. It's only when we are playing football. You win a race, you carry Nigerian national flag because you want them to gift you some money when you get back home for winning a race. The president will call you, or whoever will call you and give you money. Apart from that, I don't think that flag means so much. People are running away from even our what do you call it, passports.
You know, we've degenerated to a point when I feel that if we don't do something as quickly as possible, it will be too late for us as a nation. A situation where, I mean, I totally do not blame government alone. This wrath that befell the rot that befell the country, it stems from the family. We've lost family values, and our families where the right values are not taught, the right values are not instilled into our children. That's where it starts. Your children grew up knowing that they can cheat writing WAEC. I mean, you sponsor them to cheat.
Just what I bring it to my family, not to the nation. Cheat the nation and favor your family.
Something. My son scored A1 in all the 9 subjects. What happened? You paid 100,000 naira for your son to be aided in WAEC. So we start from there in reconstructing and sieving out the patriotic values in them. How do you expect them to go further and do better? So it starts from the home front. In a society where criminality is eulogized, is praised, people indulge in criminality and nothing happens. The value system, the institutions are not strong enough to hold people accountable for wrongdoing. So all of this had heightened the decay that we have in the society.
And then the loss of value, no patriotism. Now the primordial attachment to our various ethnic backgrounds, to our families, came from the colonial times, for example. What do people call civil service? NWK. Igbo people say Olo Igbo. Like that. So go there, go to Lagos, you go to Ibadan, go to Enugu, go to Kaduna, do the work, is the white man's job. Cheat the white man, bring the money to the village, and they will make you a chief.
True.
So that primordial background, is the origin of this lack of patriotism to Nigeria. So people, we're not unlike Americans. An American has a lot of attachment to the US. USA.
True.
There's that attachment. Because the country has offered so much to them and has given them cause to respect the values that they are given. And so they sit back and love their country.
True.
But in Nigeria, some people claim that you have no reason to love your country. But I don't think that is true.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm going to paint 2 scenarios for you, 2 pictures for you. I have a cousin who is a U.S. Marine, who is he was posted to his first duty in Iraq. And something happened. They were attacked. He was a Navy SEAL. He carried a almost dead SEAL on his shoulder. For over 30 minutes running. And I mean, few years after, or some years after, when he was decorated a war veteran, he was giving a public honor at the 30,000 field capacity stadium in California. That will engineer him to do more. Now, on the other side...
Ready to die for America.
Yeah, on the other side, I'm from a community in the Ikwerre local government area. We had a commissioner, someone who was a commissioner for land and housing. And, I mean, the old River State, his name is late now, Captain Dele Chamade. When he became a commissioner, rumors had it that, news had it that he returned about 2 million naira to the government. Excess money that was, and till date, there were people who looked at him as foolish, as, why would he return? Look at the kind of house you have, and you have to return money to the government. Are you Jesus Christ and all of that? So that's the mentality.
The mentality. No, you're talking about Captain Chama. That's a national icon. These are the national heroes. It's not just a local hero. And no wonder a polytechnic was named after him. So that's those in a different breed altogether. I once told a story of my father returning large sums of money. As an accountant, as a cashier, he was overpaid by the old Barclays Bank.
Okay.
Money was supposed to pay a salary to his organization. And when he finished paying salary, he had almost the same amount of money left. So he said something is wrong somewhere. He took the money back to the bank at Aba Road. And the cashier was funny. Didn't give him attention. It's okay. He met the bank manager, and the bank manager was so grateful. When tide came up in 1971, that thing happened in 1970.
Okay.
That's about 71, that when tide came up. He was on front page. Behold, a good Nigerian, not Samaritan. Wow. And it went viral, and a lot of people, local people say, that's the way you know, rich.
He would die a poor man.
And I wouldn't say he was a rich man. He was just a well-to-do fellow.
So we really need to work
So we need to work on that kind of...
Truly.
And that's the job that our National Orientation Agency should be doing.
Yes.
We've had orientation agencies across the country. And their duty, their line of duty, has been within the realm of reorientating Nigeria.
Reawakening that enthusiasm.
That national awareness for patriotism and for love for one's country.
True.
And for fellow countrymen. So that is one thing that Nigeria must work on. And of course, governance must come right, so that Nigerians will be proud of coming from Nigeria. Because this Japa syndrome is a very bad omen.
No, it
shows that people no longer love their country.
No, true.
Because the country is not providing nothing.
So the country is not. And the worst part of it is people who are living at the brightest of minds.
Exactly.
You know, so it might not be telling on us now, but in the future it will, if those bright minds do not return. So government needs to, we need to do everything right. I'm totally trying to shift the blame, trying to move the blame out of government and look at self.
Yes.
You know, work on ourselves and then let government do the rest.
Yes, I think the last word for this is our reward system must be right. Nigeria, exactly. Do we have the right reward system? Taiwo Akunkumi was a civil servant who was so creative to have designed the national flag. Why are we honoring him in death? How much was he given as a Nigerian, as a retiree? Nowadays, our retirees are not giving nothing. I'm sure that man may have even died a poor man.
It might be.
So our reward system is bad.
Was any establishment named after him?
Exactly. And not just that, what was the level of wealth being given to him and his family? That is the problem, and that is the question. So our reward system must be corrected and must be turned right if Nigerians must be patriotic and begin to show love for their country. That's much we can take for this half hour. When we come back, we continue. Remember, it is still Atlantic Television Network. Press Roundtable here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. And I remain your anchorman, Bon Wookie. Don't get away. You're welcome back. Don't forget I'm here in the studio with Bill Cosby Jones. Bill Cosby Jones is Bill Cosby Jones of Ikwere community. Anyway, he said it. Welcome to the program. Once again, this second segment. So I didn't introduce you at the first segment. Well, Let's look at more stories. This time we're looking at Gabon. Funny story. The international community yesterday expressed concern over the wave of military coups in Africa as Gabon became the 7th African country to fall to a military coup. Gabonese army officers, under the aegis of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, yesterday sacked President Ali Bongo, placed him under house arrest, and took over power in the oil-rich Central African country. Leaders of the coup in Gabon have named Republican Guard Chief General Brice Oligui Nguema as transitional president. According to a TV statement, the number of countries in Africa under military rule in the last 2 years now stands at 7. The others are Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Sudan, and Niger. These are all in West Africa and some part of North Africa. And then Gabon coup has elicited immediate reactions from President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria, the United Nations, European Union, African Union, Commonwealth, United States of America, US, Russia, and France, who condemned the trend. Where Russia talked about, and China talked about the safety of the president and all that. So I think that if you look at what is going on, coup d'etat in Africa is spreading. It's almost like the West Wind in the, remember the West Wind?
Yes.
Go to the West Wind?
Yeah.
When the French Revolution took place,
yes.
and British poets were eulogizing the revolution. And they wrote odes and praise to the West Wind, and they wanted the wind to spread over Europe. Now this time, the wind of coup d'etat in Africa is spreading, and it's not going to do anyone any good.
No, it's not.
Because the case of Gabon is even the worst case scenario, where a family had controlled a state for more than 5 decades, and it's not a good story.
No, it's not. It's not. I was describing the coup in Gabon to somebody, and I called it the coup pandemic spreading in Africa. It's become a trend. It started more like a joke. Now the suspicions are beginning to spread, and we're beginning to feel it strongly all over. Remember, this evening, not quite long ago, Paul Kagame and Bia changed their military. So there's this consciousness in leaders in Africa to begin knowing that it is about time you sat up, time to sit up and, begin to rule right, begin to lead your people right. In the past, in Africa, the government gave people an imagination. Government gave people an imagination. Listen, we're going to build roads, all right? We're going to bring down this house and build comfortable roads for you, and you're going to enjoy it. It's going to ease your movement. Nowadays, the people are the ones giving government imagination. I imagine
setting the agenda for government.
Yes, we're not just setting. Setting the agenda, giving government imagination. We would want for military to take over. I think they would do better. That's the imagination of the people, as we speak, and it's a very dangerous trend to follow. It has happened. It's happening now in Gabon. Nobody knows where they are planning. And it boils down to misrule. Some of these, if you look at what's happening in Cameroon, Paul Biya is being in power, God knows how.
How long?
Now, and people are suffering in that country. You go to Gabon, people are suffering. Some other African countries, people are suffering. But we must emphasize that autocracy
is coming.
It's not the way forward.
Because Central Africa...
Military overtaking civilian government, it's not the way forward.
Yes.
I was maybe not an adult when the military were in power in Nigeria. One dead military head of state still sends off money from the grave.
Yes.
That wasn't a civilian government. So that belief that if military comes, everything will be uhuru. No, it's not.
Abacha was a military leader. Just call it a journalist.
So,
we're still talking about Abacha loot. He came to the diction of Nigerian politics.
We seem to forget so easily.
Exactly. It was not Shagari loot.
We seem to forget so easily. And I get you, I bet you, give the military, God forbid the military takes over. In the next 4 years, Nigerians will be crying for civilians to return. So I think it's just a lack of strong institution. That is why politicians are making us. I'm not saying that democracy that we have, the kind of democracy we practice, is the best. No, it's not. It's not. That's because our institutions are weak, and some of these very corrupt politicians are milking and, taking advantage of the lacunas.
Pauperizing the people.
And so, let's not mistaking autocracy. Let's not mistaking military taking over as a good omen. No. Somebody was making a jest of what's happening in Gabon, saying that the people are happy. See, this is the kind of government. I said, not for long. Just mark this, not for long. When all the manifestations, all of the trappings of military rule start setting in, you will see that it's not, the solution does not lie therein.
We had it in Africa. Idi Amin was not a civilian government.
No, he wasn't.
And we've had, in Central Africa, we've had so many kind of...
Gaddafi wasn't.
Wasn't. And these were dictators. And there were so many. Abacha wasn't a civilian. I think the problem is that we don't seem to have become so civilized to understand the tenets of democracy. African Union should brace up. All the multilateral organizations in Africa and the world should brace up to reorientate African leaders on the need to strengthen democratic institutions.
True.
Now, what is the use for a one-party system in Cameroon, for example, where a particular leader perpetuates himself over and over
again?
Why can't Africans begin to learn to have multi-party system? Even at a two-party system, we give some room, because at the end of the day, you find out that multi-party system would normally come down to a collage of just two parties.
Yes.
And so we should begin to, democratize our processes, because our institutions are weak. And that should be done, because military is not an option. Military interregnum is not an option.
It's not. And, I think it's about time we sat down and begin to ask ourselves critical questions. In as much as we're looking at it from this side of the prism, let's also look at it from the other side. We are journalists, and let's begin to explore and expand this conversation. UN, NATO, Commonwealth, coming now to cry. It's like crying over spilled milk.
Exactly.
What have you done? What did you do when you witnessed, for instance, the hardship in Nigeria, for instance, the hardship in Ghana? I mean, if they were, what have you done? What did you do? How did you, advise the government to act correctly? You see incidents happening all over these African countries. What did you do to forestall a reoccurrence of such happenings? Politicians looting the coffers of different of these African countries dry. How did you do? I mean, they loot these countries and they open accounts in your countries. What did you do to stem this? What did you do to repatriate that money, those monies to the countries where they belong and where they're well needed? So you can see the sentiment in some Africans, in some people where this is happening, and saying that they give us democracy, a faulty style, a faulty mode of government, and it's not working when we were not mature enough for it. And so there needs to be a sit down. The president, I hear, was supposed to address the UN and heads of states and heads of government. These are discussions that we need to sit down and have in recent times to push a way forward for the advancement of democracy. Now that we have all of these issues happening in Africa, for it not to snowball into a widespread, a full pandemic that will spread the wide and the range of Africa.
Yeah.
I pray that it doesn't happen. God forbid.
Well, let's look at some of the issues, some of the social challenges in this story. Tinkan Island Command of the Nigerian Customs Service has impounded 2 containers from India loaded with tramadol. and codeine with duty paid value, DPV, of owner 550.3 million. The command also said 2 suspects were arrested in connection with the seizure, with importer offering $54,330 as bribe to be set free, along with his illicit drugs. The customs area controller of the command, Adekunle Oloyede, who disclosed this while briefing journalists on the seizure, said the feat was made possible through intelligent information from the Customs Intelligence Unit of the command. Well, this is how they are poisoning our nation. Give them drugs, let them kill themselves, let them go into misrule. Drug is the root of all violence, all violent crimes,
all criminal
activities, because it gives them Dutch courage.
And you know, when we emphasize and when we hammer on institutions being up to speed, up to scratch with duties assigned to them, you talk about the Nigerian Customs, they talk about NDLEA, you know, doing the best they can to rid the society of. You know, we keep evolving in terms of remodeling ways to involve in criminality, especially the Gen Zs, the one they call the Gen Zs, modeling off for all types of ways to get high.
The Malians.
Tramadol, codeine, different types of chemical combination. Every time you see youth is in a chemically induced state. If they're not sniffing
substance abuse,
they suck away the one you call the septic tank to get high. They're smoking pawpaw leaf.
Cow dung.
You know, so it has
lizard
really,
dungs.
It has really messed and messed up the society. We are hardly awake, and we're talking about reasonable Nigerians that you can make impressionable, that you can impress good morals on. Not when the person is chemically induced in a state that is not that will heighten his traits of criminality. So we need to police our society.
Yes,
Jimmy, we need to do that,
yes.
And in that lies our sanity. In that lies a society that will grow and be productive.
Yeah, Jimmy Cliff sang a song, "Remake the World." We need to remake our society. We need to reinvent our youths. Because the one dangerous thing about this drug abuse, illicit drug abuse, substance abuse, is the fact that we have a young population, which is the strength of Nigeria, because Europe doesn't have a young population. But the problem we have today, go to the villages, the young population is going down the drain because of substance abuse. Tramadol was a painkiller, right? Suddenly it has become
a substance that really induce you into something out of this world.
Codeine and all that. And there was a ban because we began to abuse them. And you'd be surprised the kind of drugs that young people are abusing. You see a child drinking Coke. Don't think that it's Coke.
No, it's not.
A lot of things.
It might not be.
And that is misdirecting them mentally. It's misdirecting them in terms of focus and innovativeness and creativity.
I think that's where government needs to come in.
Yes.
The national, we talked about a few, in the past, a few moments ago, we talked about the National Orientation Agency having a word cut out for themselves. The average Nigerian youth feels that they use some of these drugs, they induce themselves to forget about the marriage, the series of problems.
That's an opiate.
Which is very...
Very wrong. It's an opiate, a temporary escape from
reality.
Exactly.
So we need to drum this continuously, not just the National Orientation Agency, as journalists using a medium to reach out to millions of people, telling them that this is not the way to go. Like you mentioned, it's just a temporary escape from reality. It will come back to haunt you. It's not just you hurting the society. I mean, your health is also in danger, because some of these chemicals does have a way of messing up your organs. So this is something that government needs to drum at every point in time, letting them know the dangers of what they're involved in. And again, the law enforcement agencies need to be up and doing. There are people who take this as business. All right, so you must fight those who see this as business, who endanger our society, who endanger our citizens. That is where we need to take this fight to. Otherwise, it's a lost battle already.
Well, I think that the customs have a duty to make sure that they don't come into the country. And even if they don't come, there are other substances of abuse. And so some of these substances of abuse must be stemmed, must be stopped. And there has to be some kind of level of... It takes a lot to rehabilitate a drug addict.
No,
and private institutions are making money. You know, NDLEA should do something proactive and should also do something preventive and you know, reactive, as it were. This should be their modus operandi. Learn to stop this drug addiction, learn to rehabilitate those who get involved and all that, and then prosecute those who are involved in marketing, their sponsors.
True.
Those who sponsor a drug and all that. So that's as much we can take on today's program. Atlantic Television Press Roundtable. And of course, don't forget, it comes to you 7 to 8 every day, Monday to Friday. So tomorrow is another edition. Don't forget to check us on our various social media platforms, Facebook and what have you, Atlantic Television Network. X is in now called Twitter. It's now X.
Yes, X, yes.
And all that. These are all social media platforms where we come to you live. Our app, ATN Live, YouTube, Facebook, and what have you. But don't forget, Press Roundtable is your flagship program. And later in the day, by 9 p.m., the global news comes up. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you.
My name is Bon Woke. See you tomorrow.